I hired a private investigator to follow my wife for 2 weeks, and he came back with evidence worse than I imagined. I'm 38M, and I'm writing this from a hotel room because I can't be in the same house as my wife right now. Her name is Vanessa, and we've been married for 11 years, together for 14, and I just found out that almost everything about our life together has been a lie. I need to get this out because what the private investigator discovered is so much worse than an affair. I thought I was hiring him to confirm my wife was cheating. Instead, he uncovered something that's going to destroy multiple families, including my own. Vanessa and I met when we were both working at a tech startup in Austin. I was in product development, and she was in finance. We clicked immediately. She was smart and driven, and we had this easy chemistry. We got married after 3 years of dating, bought a house in the suburbs. We have one daughter, Emma, who's 9 years old. For the past 11 years, I thought we had a good marriage. Not perfect, but solid. We both work demanding jobs. I'm now a VP at a software company, and Vanessa is a financial controller at a mid-sized consulting firm. About 4 months ago, things started feeling off. Vanessa was working late more often. She was on her phone constantly. She seemed distracted and distant. When I'd ask her about work, she'd give vague answers. When I'd suggest we do something together on weekends, she'd say she was too tired or had too much work to catch up on. The intimacy in our marriage had declined over the past year, but 4 months ago, it stopped completely. She said she was stressed from work, that she needed space. I tried to be understanding. I know her job is demanding, but something felt wrong. Then 2 months ago, I saw a charge on our joint credit card for a hotel room in San Antonio. We hadn't taken any trips together. I asked Vanessa about it, and she said it was for a work retreat that got expensed incorrectly. She showed me an email from her company about the retreat. It seemed legitimate, so I dropped it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was lying. I started paying more attention to her patterns. She'd leave for work earlier than necessary. She'd come home later than her schedule required. She'd take phone calls in the other room and speak in hushed tones. One night about 6 weeks ago, I woke up at 2 in the morning and Vanessa wasn't in bed. I found her in the bathroom with the door locked. I could hear her typing on her phone. When she came back to bed, I asked if everything was okay. She said she couldn't sleep and was just scrolling social media. The next morning, I checked the router logs. I work in tech, so I know how to access this stuff. Vanessa's phone had been connected to a video call from 1 to 2:30 in the morning. She'd lied about scrolling social media. She'd been on a call with someone for an hour and a half in the middle of the night. That's when I decided to hire a private investigator. I found a firm that specializes in surveillance. The investigator's name is Vincent. He's former law enforcement and came highly recommended. I met with Vincent and told him I suspected my wife was having an affair. I gave him her schedule, her photo, her car description, her workplace address. He said he'd conduct surveillance for 2 weeks and document her movements, locations, and any interactions with other individuals. I paid him $5,000 up front. Those 2 weeks were torture. I went to work. I came home. I had dinner with Vanessa and Emma pretending everything was normal, all while knowing someone was following my wife and documenting her secrets. Vanessa didn't notice anything. She continued her pattern of late nights and weekend work sessions and phone calls in the other room. 2 weeks ago, Vincent called me and said he had completed the surveillance. He asked me to come to his office to review the findings. I took a long lunch and drove to his office in South Austin. My hands were shaking the entire drive. Vincent sat me down and said what he discovered was more complicated than a standard affair. He said I needed to prepare myself. Then he showed me the report. For the first week, Vincent had followed Vanessa's normal routine. She'd go to work, she'd have lunch meetings, she'd go home. Nothing unusual. But on day 4, Vanessa left work at noon and drove to a residential neighborhood in Round Rock. She parked in front of a small house and went inside. She stayed for 2 hours. Vincent took photos of the house. He ran the property records. The house is owned by a woman named Lauren Hickman. I didn't recognize the name. Vincent said he observed Vanessa visit this house 4 times during the 2-week surveillance period, always during work hours, always staying between 1 and 3 hours. He also observed a man coming and going from the same house. Vincent got photos of him. He's in his early 40s, average build, dark hair. Vincent ran his identification. His name is Stephen Hickman. He's married to Lauren. They've owned the house for 6 years. I still didn't understand what this meant. I asked Vincent if Vanessa was having an affair with Stephen. He said no. The situation was different. Vincent had used a telephoto lens to photograph through the windows of the house. I know this sounds invasive, but I'd hired him to find the truth, and he did. The photos showed Vanessa sitting in the living room with Lauren and Stephen. They were having conversations that appeared emotional. There was a lot of gesturing and what looked like crying. In several photos, there was a small child visible, a little girl maybe 3 or 4 years old. Vincent said he'd done additional research. He cross-referenced public records, social media, financial databases. Then he showed me what he'd found, and my entire world collapsed. Lauren Hickman gave birth to a daughter named Sophie 4 years ago. The birth certificate lists Stephen Hickman as the father. But Vincent had found photos on Lauren's private Facebook account from the pregnancy. Photos of Vanessa at Lauren's baby shower. Photos of Vanessa holding newborn Sophie in the hospital. He'd also found Venmo transactions. Vanessa had been sending Lauren $500 every month for the past 4 years. The payments had descriptions like for Sophie, daycare help, insurance. Vincent said, based on his observations and the evidence, it appeared that Vanessa and Lauren had a child together via sperm donor, that Stephen was likely a legal father on paper, but not the biological father, and that Vanessa had been secretly co-parenting this child for 4 years. I couldn't breathe. I asked Vincent if he was sure. He said he was as certain as he could be without a DNA test, but that the evidence was compelling. He showed me more photos. Vanessa playing with Sophie in the backyard. Vanessa reading to her on the couch. Vanessa pushing her on a swing set. In every photo, Vanessa looked happy, relaxed, engaged in a way I hadn't seen her look at home in years. I paid Vincent the remaining balance and took copies of everything. The report, the photos, the financial records, the property information. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour, trying to process what I'd learned. My wife had another child, a 4-year-old daughter she'd been hiding from me for 4 years. She'd been living a double life, splitting her time between our family and this other family. The late work nights, the weekend sessions, the phone calls in the other room, it was all time with Sophie. The distant behavior, the lack of intimacy, the stress she claimed was from work, it was guilt and the strain of maintaining 2 separate lives. I felt sick. I felt betrayed. I felt like I didn't know the woman I'd been married to for 11 years. That evening, I confronted Vanessa after Emma went to bed. I told her I'd hired a private investigator, that I knew about Lauren and Stephen and Sophie. Her face went completely white. She tried to deny it at first. She said I'd misunderstood what I'd seen. I pulled out the photos and the financial records and laid them on the kitchen table. She stared at them for a long time, and then she started crying. She admitted everything. She said Sophie is her biological daughter, that she and Lauren had wanted to have a child together, that they'd use an anonymous sperm donor, that Stephen had agreed to be listed as the legal father to avoid complications. I asked why she'd hidden this from me, why she'd lied for 4 years. She said it started before we were married, that she and Lauren had been in a relationship years ago before I met Vanessa. They'd broken up, but remained close friends. When Vanessa and I got serious, Lauren had told her she wanted to have a child and asked if Vanessa would be the biological mother. Vanessa had agreed because she wasn't sure if she wanted kids in a traditional marriage, but she did want the experience of pregnancy and motherhood. They planned for Vanessa to carry the baby, give birth, and then step back to a supportive aunt role. But after Sophie was born, Vanessa couldn't step back. She wanted to be involved as a parent. Lauren wanted her involved, so they created this arrangement. Vanessa said she'd planned to tell me before we got married, but she was afraid I'd leave her. Then we got married, and she still couldn't tell me. Then we had Emma, and the secret got bigger and harder to reveal. She said she'd been sending money to help with childcare and expenses, that she'd been visiting several times a week to spend time with Sophie, that Lauren and Stephen knew about me and Emma, but that she kept Sophie completely separate. I asked if she loved Lauren. She said not romantically anymore, but that Lauren was her family, that Sophie was her daughter. I asked why she'd stayed married to me if she had this whole other life. She said she loved me too, that she wanted both families, that she thought she could manage both. I told her she'd been lying to me for our entire marriage, that every day she didn't tell me about Sophie was a choice to deceive me. She said she knew, that she was sorry, that she didn't know how to fix it. I left that night. I packed a bag and drove to a hotel. I've been here for 2 weeks. Vanessa has been calling and texting constantly, begging me to come home, saying we can work through this. But I don't know how to work through this. She has a 4-year-old child I didn't know existed. She's been co-parenting with another family for years. She's been lying to me every single day. I told Emma that Daddy is staying somewhere else for work for a little while. She's confused and upset. I don't know what to tell her. I don't know how to explain that her mother has been living a secret life. I've consulted with a divorce attorney. Her name is Rebecca. She said this is one of the most unusual cases she's seen. She said the financial support Vanessa has been providing to Lauren could be considered misuse of marital assets, that I could potentially claim some of that money back in a divorce settlement. She also said that Vanessa's deception could impact custody arrangements for Emma. But right now I'm not even thinking about legal strategy. I'm just trying to understand how my wife could do this. How she could look me in the eye every day for 4 years and lie about where she was going, what she was doing, who she was with. How she could hold our daughter Emma and know that she had another daughter across town that Emma didn't know about. I feel like I never really knew Vanessa at all. like our entire marriage was built on lies. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I can forgive this. I don't know if our marriage can survive. All I know is that the woman I thought I married doesn't exist. Update 5 weeks later. I wasn't planning to update, but people reached out asking what happened, and I think writing this out helped me process everything. The past 5 weeks have been the worst of my life, but there's been some clarity and decisions made. After I posted originally, I stayed in the hotel for another week. Vanessa called me every day asking when I was coming home. I told her I needed time. She sent me long emails explaining her perspective, saying she knew she'd made terrible choices, but that she loved me and wanted to save our marriage. I didn't respond to most of them. During that week, I met with my lawyer, Rebecca, 3 times. We discussed options. She said I had ground for divorce based on fraud and breach of trust. She also said that in Texas, the court considers the best interest of the child in custody cases, that Vanessa's secret second family could be seen as evidence of poor judgment. I also met with a therapist. His name is Daniel. I needed help processing the betrayal and anger. Daniel said what Vanessa did represents a fundamental violation of a marriage contract, that she'd been living in 2 realities simultaneously, and that the cognitive dissonance of that would have required constant deception. He said it was understandable that I felt I didn't know her, because in many ways I didn't. She'd been hiding a core part of her identity in life. After that first week, I agreed to meet with Vanessa in person. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She looked exhausted. She said she'd barely been sleeping, that Emma kept asking when I was coming home. I told her I needed complete honesty going forward. No more secrets, no more lies. She agreed. I asked her to tell me everything about Sophie, about Lauren, about how this arrangement worked. She explained that she and Lauren had been together for 2 years in their mid-20s. They'd broken up because Lauren wanted a more traditional life and Vanessa wanted to focus on her career. They'd stayed friends. When Lauren married Stephen 5 years ago, Vanessa was at the wedding. Stephen knew about Lauren and Vanessa's past relationship. He was okay with it. When Lauren told Vanessa she wanted to have a baby but was struggling with infertility, Vanessa offered to be a surrogate. But instead of just being a surrogate, Vanessa proposed using her own eggs so the child would be biologically hers. Lauren agreed. They used an anonymous sperm donor from a fertility clinic. Vanessa got pregnant. This was about 5 years ago, shortly before Vanessa and I got engaged. Vanessa said she'd planned to tell me before the wedding, but she was afraid I'd call it off. She said she kept meaning to tell me, but could never find the right moment. Sophie was born 4 years ago. Vanessa took a week off work, claiming it was for a medical procedure. She gave birth and then went back to her normal life with me. For the first year, she visited Sophie once a week. Then it increased to 2 or 3 times a week. Then it became almost daily check-ins and several long visits per week. Lauren and Stephen both work full-time, so Vanessa would go over during lunch breaks or after work to help with childcare. The monthly payment started as help with medical expenses and then became regular child support. Vanessa said Sophie knows her as Aunt Nessa, that Sophie doesn't know Vanessa is her biological mother. I asked if Vanessa planned to ever tell Sophie the truth. She said she and Lauren hadn't decided, that it was complicated. I asked if Emma and Sophie would ever meet. Vanessa said she'd hoped they would someday, but hadn't figured out how to make that happen without revealing everything. I asked Vanessa point blank if she regretted having Sophie. She said no, that Sophie was one of the best things in her life. That hurt more than almost anything else, knowing that this secret child brought her more joy than our family did. I told Vanessa I didn't know if I could stay married to her, that the level of deception was too much. She begged me to try therapy, to give her a chance to rebuild trust. I agreed to try couples counseling, but I told her I wasn't making any promises. We started seeing a marriage counselor 2 weeks ago. Her name is Dr. Patel. The first session was brutal. Dr. Patel asked Vanessa to explain her reasoning for maintaining the secret. Vanessa said she'd been compartmentalizing, that she'd convinced herself it wasn't really lying because she was just living 2 separate parts of her life. Dr. Patel said that was a rationalization, that active deception over years is a choice, not a mistake. She asked me what I needed from Vanessa to even consider staying in the marriage. I said I needed her to cut back her involvement with Sophie, that I couldn't be married to someone who was actively parenting another child. Vanessa started crying. She said she couldn't abandon Sophie, that Sophie needed her. I said Sophie has 2 parents already in Lauren and Stephen, that Vanessa needed to choose between being Sophie's biological mother and being my wife. Dr. Patel said that was a fair boundary, but that it needed to be negotiated, not demanded. We've had 2 more sessions since then. Vanessa has agreed to reduce her visits with Sophie to once a week and to stop the monthly financial payments. She talked to Lauren about it. Apparently Lauren was upset, but understood. Vanessa also agreed to complete transparency. She gave me access to all her accounts, her phone, her location, everything. I moved back home last week. Emma was so relieved. She's been clingy and anxious since I left. Vanessa and I are sleeping in the same house, but not in the same bed. I'm in the guest room. We're coexisting, but we're not really connected. Every conversation feels strained. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust her again. My lawyer said I can still file for divorce at any point, that trying counseling doesn't waive any of my legal options. I also insisted that Vanessa tell Emma the truth in an age-appropriate way. Last weekend, we sat Emma down and told her that Mommy has a friend named Lauren who has a little girl named Sophie, and that Mommy has been helping take care of Sophie. Emma asked if Sophie was her sister. Vanessa said that it was complicated. Emma seemed confused, but not upset. I think she's too young to fully grasp what this means. Eventually, we'll have to tell her the whole truth, but for now, we're taking it slow. I don't know where this marriage is going. I'm trying to forgive Vanessa, but every time I look at her, I see 4 years of lies. Dr. Patel said rebuilding trust takes time and consistent action. That Vanessa needs to prove through behavior, not just words, that she's committed to our marriage. So far, Vanessa has kept her promises. She's been home every evening. She's been present with Emma. She's been going to therapy. But I still feel like I'm living with a stranger. Final update for months later. This will be my final update because I've made my decision about the marriage and I'm moving forward. The past 4 months have been a process of trying to salvage something that might be too broken to fix. Vanessa and I continued couples therapy with Dr. Patel. We went every week. We did the homework assignments. We had the hard conversations. Vanessa kept her promise to reduce contact with Sophie. She went from seeing her multiple times a week to once a week on Saturday afternoons. She stopped the monthly payments to Lauren, though she did continue to buy birthday and Christmas gifts for Sophie. She gave me complete access to her phone, her email, her location. I could check anytime I wanted. For the first month, I checked constantly. I was looking for evidence of more lies, more secrets. I didn't find anything. Vanessa was where she said she'd be, doing what she said she was doing. But the lack of new lies didn't erase the 4 years of old lies. In therapy, Dr. Patel had us work on exercises to rebuild intimacy and trust. We did scheduled date nights. We did communication exercises. We wrote letters to each other about our feelings. Some of it helped. There were moments where I felt like maybe we could get back to something resembling a normal marriage. But there were also moments where I'd look at Vanessa and feel nothing but resentment. 2 months ago, something happened that forced me to make a final decision. Emma came home from school and told me that one of her classmates had asked if she had a sister named Sophie. I asked Emma where she'd heard that name. Emma said she told her friend that her mom helps take care of a little girl named Sophie. The friend's older sister goes to the same preschool as Sophie. She'd seen Vanessa there picking Sophie up. The friend had asked if Sophie was Emma's sister, and Emma didn't know what to say. I realized that no matter how much we tried to contain this situation, it was going to leak out. People were going to ask questions. Emma was going to be confused and eventually hurt. That night, I told Vanessa we needed to make a choice. Either we tell Emma the full truth about Sophie and integrate both families somehow, or we end this marriage and establish clear separate lives. Vanessa said she didn't want a divorce, that she wanted to make our marriage work. I asked her if she was willing to stop seeing Sophie entirely. She said no, that she couldn't do that. I said then we needed to figure out how to blend these families, to have Emma and Sophie meet, to have some kind of relationship between all of us. Vanessa said she talked to Lauren and Steven about it. She came back 2 days later and said Lauren was not comfortable with that Lauren wanted to keep Sophie's life simple, that introducing Emma and explaining the situation would be too complicated. Lauren had also said that if Vanessa was going to prioritize her marriage, then she needed to step back from Sophie's life more significantly. I told Vanessa she had to choose our family or her arrangement with Lauren and Sophie. She cried for hours. She said it wasn't fair to make her choose between her children. I said Emma is her child that she's raising every day. Sophie is her biological child that she's been secretly visiting. They're not the same. She said they felt the same to her. That's when I knew the marriage was over. I told Vanessa I was filing for divorce, that I couldn't stay in a marriage where I was competing with a secret second family. She begged me to reconsider, but I'd made my decision. I filed for divorce 6 weeks ago. We're in the process now. My lawyer, Rebecca, is pushing for primary custody of Emma based on Vanessa's history of deception and poor judgment. Vanessa's lawyer is arguing that her relationship with Sophie doesn't impact her ability to parent Emma. The court ordered a custody evaluation. A psychologist interviewed both of us and Emma. The evaluator's report came back last week. It recommended joint custody, with me having primary physical custody and Vanessa having visitation every other weekend plus 1 weeknight. The evaluator noted concerns about Vanessa's pattern of deception and compartmentalization. Vanessa was devastated by the recommendation. She said she can't lose time with Emma. Her lawyer is fighting the recommendation, but Rebecca said it's likely the judge will adopt it. We're still living in the same house, but completely separate. I'm in the guest room. We barely speak except about logistics with Emma. I've started looking for my own place. I'll probably move out next month once we have a temporary custody arrangement in place. Emma knows we're getting divorced. We told her together. She was sad but not surprised. I think she could feel the tension. We told her that mommy and daddy still love her very much, but that we can't be married anymore. We haven't told her the full truth about Sophie yet. That conversation will come later when she's older. For now, we've just said that mommy has another little girl she helps take care of and that it's complicated. Vanessa still sees Sophie once a week. I don't ask about it, and she doesn't volunteer information. I've also learned that Stephen and Lauren are having marital problems. Apparently, Stephen is struggling with the whole arrangement now that it's caused my marriage to fall apart. I don't know what will happen to their family, but it's not my problem. I'm focused on rebuilding my life with Emma, on being the stable, consistent parent she needs. I've accepted that I'll never fully understand why Vanessa did what she did, why she thought she could maintain 2 families indefinitely. Dr. Patel said some people are able to compartmentalize to an extreme degree that they can hold contradictory realities in their mind without experiencing the cognitive dissonance that would force most people to change. Maybe that's what Vanessa did. Maybe she genuinely believed she could have both families forever. But belief doesn't make something sustainable. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just tired and sad and ready to move on. I don't hate Vanessa. I feel sorry for her in some ways. She created an impossible situation, and now she's losing both families in different ways. She'll have limited time with Emma. She'll have limited involvement with Sophie. She'll have neither of the family structures she wanted. But those are consequences of her choices. I'm taking Emma to visit my parents next weekend. We're going to spend time together away from all this. I'm also starting to think about what my future looks like. Eventually, I'll be ready to date again, to find someone I can actually trust. But for now, I'm focused on being a good dad and getting through this divorce. This whole experience has taught me that you can live with someone for years and not really know them, that people are capable of sustained deception that seems impossible from the outside. I hope anyone reading this who's keeping a secret from their partner understands that the truth always comes out eventually, and the longer you wait, the more damage it does.